Welcome to Toffee Blue View, your source for all things Everton. I am Gerry. Joining me as they tend to, I have Terry and Max. Very excited about it. Guys, there's been some recent news that possibly we may start making some of these loans. We have 2 loans. We may start making them permanent. Andre Gomes and Kurt Zouma. So let's start with Gomes, just because, alphabetical. So Max, it's your turn. A few questions. Let's hit all these points for both these guys. Andre Gomes, is he a good fit for Silva's style? See the transition from the last video? Style? All right.
Yeah.
Is he a good fit for Silva's style? Does he want to be here? Because it seems like he does. And it seems like he gets the club. Let's consider the money. Is he potentially worth the money? Because I think that's a whole different conversation. Because if he's going to cost too much, then meh. So Max,
Does he fit the style? When he's not knackered and when he hasn't played too many games, I'd say so. Yeah, I think when he's energized and when he's raring to go. What I like about Andre Gomes, I think in more recent months gone by, that you've seen a different side to him almost. You've seen like a kind of an aggression come out of him that we haven't seen from an Everton midfielder, I don't think, in quite a while. So I think that's endeared him to Evertonians just that bit more. I was just doing a little bit of brushing up and research, obviously, beforehand. 25 years old, contracted till Barca till June of 2021. He's on transfer market. He's valued currently at 28 million, and his value took a great spike when he joined Barcelona. Obviously, it didn't go so well for him there, so his value dropped massively. And it's only since he's moved to Everton that his values kind of skyrocketed again almost. So I think that, in answer to does he want to be here, I think he'd be a bit soft if he didn't want to be here. Like it's obvious, it bodes well for him. He seems to be in an environment that he's enjoying being around. I think he gets on well with a lot of the squad. And it's almost as if he's been given a new leash on life, because obviously I don't think he's not walking back into Barcelona's team, and I think he'd have a hard time with it if he did go back there. But £28 million, do you think he's going to cost us that, or are we going north of £28 million?
It's a really good question.
I don't know. I mean, he was talked about at first when he hit that first little run of form. People were going, pay anything, pay Sigurdsson money, just get him. He's amazing. And I was one of them. I was like, he's so good. We need to buy that player. But the talk, the sort of rumour and innuendo since then has been, 24 million according to Spanish press, and he may it may not cost that much because Barca, not that much in Premier League terms, but Barca aren't really interested in keeping the player. The player wants to come, so it's not going to be. I mean, they'd quite like a bit more, obviously, but I think it may be down to the player. If the player doesn't really, if his agent or himself doesn't really entertain any offers from other clubs or anything like that, there were rumours that Spurs were interested and stuff like that. If he's not, if he's batting that away behind the scenes, then the price is going to come down. It's a no-brainer for me to sign him, definitely. It's even for decent money. I think at that age, he's a good age. I think we've been stung a bit by spending over the odds on players with very little resale value. I think he could be one who, if he plays to his potential for 2 years, he could easily be worth. We buy him for 25 million, say. He'd be worth double that if he has a good couple of years. Every player you spend over, any decent amount of money for is a risk. But I think it's straightforward. To me, reminds me of the Gareth Barry deal. Like, not in the same sort of financial sense, because obviously Gareth Barry was on loan and was out of contract in the summer, and people were worried that is he going to play so well in that season that other clubs are going to come in for him? And no, I don't. I think just like with that and with Gomes as well, it's right. He fits so well into the team. He fits so well into the club. He's the sort of heart of the midfield, and it's just a case of it's. I think it's a formality. I think we're going to sign him, and I think he's going to be put in place to be like by not just Silva, by Brands himself with the bigger picture in mind. Going, you're our sort of engine, you're our hub in the middle of the pitch, and we're going to build the rest of the midfields around you. You're young enough for us to do that. I think it's straight. I think it's a formality. I think it's just about finding the right financial package for suits all parties. I don't think he wants to be anywhere else. I don't think there's any question that we want him, and I don't think there's any question of Barca wanting to keep him. I think it's straightforward. But how often are things straightforward with Everton when they're meant to be?
In the previous video, we were talking about Silva, almost like when he was at Watford, those two players, Capu and Decore, being super important. And I feel like Gomes becomes one of those. Almost the most important players on the pitch for the team. And I think Gomes is one of those. How much is too much? Market is bonkers right now. It's ridiculous. All right. Part of me says I really don't want to pay more than 35 million. I think that's high for a player who would never even get in a squad for Barca. I think that's really high. However, I think they know we want him pretty damn bad, and they're going to do their best to drive things up if they can. But Marcel Brands is a dude. He drives up. He gets a bargain. He clips coupons. He's going to get us a decent price. He did well with Dean. He did. Hopefully, we'll look back and say he did well with Mina. We'll see. But yeah, I think he'll be worth the money that we pay for him. I don't think we're paying 40. I don't care how bonkers the market is. I don't care. That's nuts. So yeah, I think Barca would have to be off their cake to ask for that. So somebody mentioned that in a comment, a YouTube comment one time. They asked me if I was off my cake, and I was like, I'm stealing that, yoink. Anyway, we like Gomes. Frankly, I think if we look at the squad, we're going to feel like we need his partner. We need a partner for Gomes in the middle. That's going to be a purchase in the summer, I think. That's going to be big.
Might even be Decore.
It might be.
A player of that profile wouldn't be against that.
You could easily see that. I don't think we're rich enough or high profile enough for Ndombele, especially after he did what he did against Barca. I don't see that happening.
No.
I think we're kidding ourselves with players like that. I think we need to find those players when they're at the team they're at before they go to Lyon. Wherever he came from, we need to go and look at the Saint Etienne's and teams like that and go, right, who's the next big star? Because they come from somewhere, and they all we need to stop buying from the big clubs, because we either get a player who's not good enough or we get a player we pay too much for. That's why you've got Brands. Find them first. We won't get Lozano. We might get the next one though, who's not Lozano yet. So ideally, I wouldn't be surprised if in the summer we signed a couple of players who you've never heard of, and they don't really, no one's excited for them yet, but then they end up being really important players.
That'd be lovely.
I like that. I like that. That adds a sense of adventure to the transfer market. You know what I mean? That's like it's almost like we're investing. Nuts, huh? All right. So we're all on board the Gomes train. I mean, the man gave a hug-a-thon. All right. For God's sake. Everybody loves him. All right. So write that check. Kurt Zouma. Silva, has hinted that we're going to test Chelsea over this. He has proven to be one of our more reliable center backs this season. No idea what's going on with Gerry Mina as far as if he's injured or what. But Zouma has proven to be all right. So However, we've talked in the last video about Silva's style being playing out of the back. All right. Zouma has this reputation for being very aggressive in the air. However, we haven't seen as much of that on set plays as much as we've expected. Then there's the question: does he want to be here, and what kind of money are we talking about? All right, let's start with Terry on this one. Is Kurt Zouma a good fit for Marco Silva? What Marco Silva wants to do?
Yeah, I'd say he is, but me personally, I'm less enthused by this one than I was with Gomes. He's an okay player, he's good, but for the money that he'd probably cost, not for me. I think I'd rather us go and get someone better. I actually, it may be an unpopular opinion, it may be a bit early to say it, but I think Yerry Mina is a much better player. I haven't seen a lot of him yet, and it's not to say Yerry Mina's perfect. There's a lot of things he could do better, and we obviously don't know what's going on with him. Assume he's been injured since the Millwall game. You know, you get like, you know, different accounts online who like to stir things up. But I would bring in Zouma dependent on the price and dependent on what's going on with Michael Keane. I think if I'd like to see us go for a different centre back in the summer. But I'd be happy to go for Zouma as well if he was a good price and he was replacing Michael Keane in the squad. But I wouldn't want him to be sent for a massive price, or if that's it, they're your three top centre-backs, because we've got them already and we're not very good at the back. So I don't see why we'd invest decent money in something that we've already had a preview of is not going to work, because Zouma would cost a lot. He's Chelsea are probably going to change manager again soon, and he's not going to, he might want to have a look at Zouma, and or if he doesn't, the club are going to go, well, we're not selling to another Premier League club a young player who we brought in with a view for the future. We're not going to sell him for cheap. I think he'd cost well more than Gomes, and I'm not into it. I just don't think he's worth it. I think I'd rather us go out and with that money, with that potential 30, 40, whatever it is, million that he might cost Zouma, and go and find someone else. Go and find another Lucas Digne. I use Lucas Digne as like this go-to bargain where he was 18 million and he's slotted right in, and he's the Everton player that every fantasy football team's got in it. He's probably the most picked Everton player. Lucas Digne came in with little fanfare, just brought in for a decent price. I'd rather Brands go and do that again with the centre back than bring in Zouma. I've got to be honest. It's not that I dislike him. It's not that I'll be unhappy if we do get him. I'm just underwhelmed by Zouma on the strength of the whole season. I think he could have been a lot better in a lot of games, but it's not to single just him out. But if we're talking about buying him, I think we can get better. I prefer someone else.
Max, what do you think? Kurt Zouma.
Yeah, I'd agree completely with what Teddy said. Like, after that deadline day in the summer, we were like, oh, look at what we've come away with. We've got centre halves now: Michael Keane, Yerry Mina, Kurt Zouma. Three really strong options at centre half. I think personally, it's after the 6-2 against Tottenham at home. Since that game, I think they've just all kind of dropped off almost. And there was far too many instances in that game alone where the attackers are finding space in between the fullbacks and the centre halves, or even in between the two centre halves themselves. And the biggest mistake of that game, Kurt Zouma colliding with the keeper. Like, I do like Kurt Zouma, don't get me wrong. I've looked him up again. 24, contracted to Chelsea until June 2023. Got a transfer market value of 20 million. Obviously, I don't think that'd be his eventual buy value, but playing out from the back, he doesn't look poised on the ball. He reminds me a hell of a lot like Mamadou Sakho in his kind of movement when he's on the ball, and it's kind of heart in mouth at times. He's solid on his defensive basics. Gets his head to, obviously he scored that, he scored a headed goal, endeared himself to a fan. So it's not as if he's, it's not as if we don't like him. Like him a lot. He seems like a character that you'd want in and around your dressing room. However, we haven't seen the fruits of any development in terms of our defensive line, particularly from, as you say, set pieces and zonal marking. So there's been plenty of times where he's been, the culprit of marking fresh air. So similar to Terry said, like, if we can go out there and we can find someone that could play out from the back, like I was watching when we got beat 2-0 by City, I was watching that thing and I'd love to have John Stones in the middle of our defence. Like a player of that ilk that is comfortable with playing out from the back, and that is his bread and butter. I think that's the profile of a player that we need to go for. I don't think it's like, we're trying to mould him into a player almost that he isn't. Go for him by all means if we haven't got another target, but I would scout elsewhere.
I've always gotten the vibe that Zouma was sort of an emergency signing. It was just sort of, let's bring this guy in. We know he can defend. He'll do until Mina gets healthy or Mina gets up to speed. That's always been my vibe about it. I don't know that we brought him in thinking this is going to be our guy. However, I also thought I did think there was a possibility. I didn't even imagine, like, at this point that he would be starting over Mina. I thought he'd be starting over Keane. However, because we didn't have a whole lot of faith in Keane at the beginning of the season. After last season, we just didn't. The cost, that's my biggest issue. I think if we looked at him and we said he's perfect for what Silva's trying to do in terms of playing the ball out of the back, being aggressive in the air, making sure nobody's winning anything near him, I think we'd be fine paying 35-40 for him. You know what I mean? Because that means it's somebody who's perfect for what our manager's trying to do, and he's a guaranteed starter.
Yeah, and someone that we haven't mentioned that's coming back who can cover both.
I was going to go there.
Centre half and right back. He got a fantastic assist at the weekend for West Brom. Mason Holgate's coming back, and if I was Marco Silva, Mason Holgate be coming back into my side.
He's getting his swagger back.
He just would. Yeah.
It's something I was going to mention. That was literally the next question out of my mouth. Is if you've got Holgate coming back to possibly help out at center back, how much do you actually invest in a young defender?
My question to that would be, who do you feel more comfortable with when they've got the ball?
That's easy.
Kurt Zouma or Mason Holgate, and I think I know what the answer is.
However, I will say Zouma has made less defense, like positioning mistakes and mental drops. You know what I mean? Like actually when open play is happening, the hope is that Holgate is getting that experience, so he's going to make less of those. That's the point of sending him out.
True. Yeah.
What a tough question. That's going to be interesting. Come summer, what's going to happen with him? Because a lot of people are making an argument that he should be starting right back, and I'm like, well, he's in the championship right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he really has a bearing on the Zouma situation. I think he's the whole point of him being on loan now is because for the last months of this season, the fourth choice centre back spot is Jagielka's, and I think Jagielka will probably go in the summer, and Holgate will take that position. And then when Zouma goes back, that still leaves you with three, so you've got to buy another one, and then decide what you're going to do with Michael Keane, whether you're going to try and move him on, or whether he's going to go to the third choice, or whether you're going to make Holgate a right back. I think Holgate's on loan now so he can play while Jagielka winds things down. I don't think it's a case of, he's going to come back and he'll just replace Zouma, because I don't think Jagielka will extend his time. But the thing
Terry
with Holgate is
left field, though. That's crazy, man. Where did that come from?
You've got to think as well with Holgate. The club might view him as a potential profit spinner. It's not really got a. I don't want them to, but they might think, well, we're struggling to sell a lot of players and get the books looking right. He's one we could sell, not really feel it, and make a decent amount of money for. I know that's cynical, and sort of, this is a conversation for a different segment, but sort of feel the same way about Lookman now.
Let me say, if that happened, I'd be so pissed off. Like that's just going
all
backwards.
right.
But I can understand the
Don't
point.
completely
I'll
go
leave
into too much Holgate now, because we may do a segment on him next week. All right, we may do a segment. So don't totally, throw all your Holgate material out there yet. Right.
I hope that's not true, but I do wonder.
I don't necessarily even think that's cynical. I think that's realistic. That's a possibility. However, thinking about Bronze and this youth movement that he's seemingly trying to create, it doesn't seem to fit the profile. You know what I mean? It seems like he would want to hang on to valuable players like that with promise. But
I do like Holgate a lot. I mean, I think I think he'll replace Jagielka's position in the squad, but whether he's used as a right back and we move out one of the other two right backs, or whether he is just, we'll try it at centre back. We might have him and Mina, who knows, or him and Keane. Well, maybe not him and Keane, because we tried that, it didn't really work, but we'll see.
You know what? A little more experience could change that as well. You know what I mean? So it's hard to say. He was my favorite, one of our center backs before we brought in Mina and Zouma, and before Keane started actually playing a little better.
When Coleman was a kid, he went on loan to Blackpool and they came up, and that made him as a player. So hopefully the same thing can happen for Holgate at West Brom. But just having that playing every week experience in the Championship was just worth its weight in gold, and hopefully. And fully on Osman as well, but like a lot of players have benefited from that, that type of loan. And it's been a while since we've benefited from it. We send 1 million players out on loan. We never seem to get them back any better. They always seem to be even worse, and we're trying to get rid of them. Maybe this one will work for us.
That'd be nice. That'd be a different way to approach a loan, yeah? Actually, to develop the player instead of going like, get out of here.
But as you say, this is all stuff I should really be saving for a Holgate.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. So we've taken a little left turn at Holgate. It happens. We'll delve into it more later. It's topical right now. There's a lot of people talking about Mason Holgate. There you go. So Kurt Zouma, I think we'd all agree, if the price was super right, we'd be cool with Zouma. But the idea of breaking the bank for a player that might not fit the profile of what Silva's doing, that's questionable. So, also may not fit the what Bronze likes to do. So, all right. So that's it for our loan to perm segment. If you've been digging the videos, please subscribe to the Toffee Blues YouTube channel. We'd sincerely appreciate it. If you gots to have more Terry, check out the Liverpool Echo fan Gerry, because he shows up there every once in a while. Check out his Twitter. He'll tell you when. Also, Max's Twitter, he tells you where he's going to be, when, and why, and all that hot stuff. But he also shows up with his analysis on the Toffee Blues website, so keep an eye out there. Gentlemen, we got to move on. Match preview, because there's actually a match next week. It's back. Everton is back. It's happening. There's nothing we can do about it. Guys, let's discuss. Move on. Bye.